Hi there folks, and welcome back to the channel. This is Michael, and welcome to another episode of Michael's Backyard Marina. Behind me is something that might take a couple weeks, could take a couple months for me to sort it out. And what I mean by sort it out is the boat and trailer came with not great paperwork. The paperwork for the trailer was doable enough that I actually was able to transfer the tags into my name, trailer registration into my name today. Buyer beware. I paid $300 for the whole kit and caboodle, right? And I did a bill of sale for $200 for the boat, $100 for the trailer. Little did I know that trailer hadn't been registered for 3 years. Cost me $52 to catch up the plates. Otherwise, it would only been like 20 some dollars to register. So it cost me over 70 bucks because of the, let's call it the back taxes and penalty and stuff like that. So buyer beware, right? Good news is I have paperwork for the trailer. I got a plate I can put on the back and I can drag this thing all over the world if I wanted to. The boat's a little bit of a different story. The boat does not have great paperwork. I have a bill of sale that was signed by somebody else. That's not the guy that I bought the boat from. I have it's not a title, it's a registration. In Iowa, anything under 18 feet, you have a registration for. Anything 18 foot and over, you actually have a title like you do for a car. So two different animals there. Well, the fact that I don't have paperwork can make it very difficult for me to register this boat. Part of this video is people have asked, well, what do you do when you don't have paperwork? This video is going to be highly focused around that process. Plus, we're going to do a quick tour of this boat like we did a previous boat I just bought not too long ago. And we're just going to get a good rundown of what is this boat and why do I have it? Well, for one, it has a Mercruiser 120 horse, inboard outboard engine. That's my specialty. That's what I like playing around with. Those are my, a go-to engine that I just enjoy working on. And when they're running right, they are so smooth and awesome and reliable, just crazy reliable. There's people out there that probably go, no, those things are junk. Well, if you know how to work on them and tune them, they're crazy reliable. I've had one in a boat now for over 5 years, or around 5 years, and it is butter. So the other reason I bought this boat, it's green. That's the honest truth. I put my wife on a mission. She likes Facebook Marketplace and perusing that. Well, I have a banana boat, right? You guys have seen that. I might clip a little clip up on here, or maybe the whole screen. But the banana is yellow, 1972 glass bar, and it's a 1970s yellow. And it's a tri-hull, and I completely restored that boat. I told my wife I wanted a green boat, and then she showed me this one. I'm like, that is the proper color green. This is a 1977 4 WINNS. That means you won 4 times, right? 4 times, or maybe it's going to cost you 4 times as much to get her back together. I don't know, but it's a 4 WINNS, and the gel coat on it is in actually pretty good shape. It's got some scratches and it's got some battle scars. It's a 1977. I expect that. But the keel is not destroyed on it. The keel is in good shape. Nobody's been running this up on beaches like at my Cobalt. So this one I might still put a keel guard on eventually, but I also don't run things up on beaches myself. So the other cool part is, like I said, it's green and it's a V-bottom, right? V-bottom, fiberglass. Good chance the floor is going to be soft. I haven't even set foot in this boat. When I was talking to the guy about it, it was one of those things. I know there's an engine. I know there's an outdrive still hanging on the back of it that looks like it's pretty clean, not too, worn and torn. And they come with a trailer. I've got my $300 worth, even if I don't put it on the water. There again, I think I've said that many times on this channel. But it's growing on me. And you know what happens when a boat grows on me? I pay way too much attention to it. And when I say pay way too much, that's got dollar signs on that pay part. I didn't pay a lot for it. I ain't got a lot in it. But I'm not going to put one dime into this boat until I've got a registration in my hands that says it's mine, and I can put my new numbers on the boat and stick it on the water. But, so that might take a minute to do that. In the meantime, let's walk around this thing. I'm gonna show you a few things that I will play around with and I will work on and maybe even make its own independent videos of, most likely, just because while I'm waiting, okay? And these are parts that I could use anyway. So let's walk around this thing. So first off, you see it's green. And, you know, up here, there's a few little chippity chips here, but that could have been from any number of things up here when you're loading the boat. But as you can see, this is the same style trailer that was on the Good Enough John boat. And you see how this thing is bolted right here? And you come back literally 1 foot and there's just a piece of angle, stainless angle. I think that's stainless or aluminum. I think it's stainless, I can't remember. But 3 U-bolts, and that's the whole thing that holds it together. Now you can see this tongue length is actually pretty decent. Same reason I extended the tongue on the Good Enough John boat. I could actually jackknife this thing to 90 degrees and nothing hits the vehicle. It helps that it's a V bow for sure. Now this trailer, these are, the paperwork I got with this trailer said it was a 1965 Snowco, which I'm not so sure it's a Snowco. I don't know how that paperwork got there, right here, because this says Easy Loader, and a lot of these were Easy Loaders. It says Canada right there, so maybe that was made in, you know, with Canadian dollars. But it is a roller bunk, and the rollers look like they could be replaced. I probably will. Obviously the tail lights are total toast. And you guys on the previous video, you might ask me why do I know you should zip tie your tail lights down? Well, look at this one. That black one right there had a red lens on it. Nice thing is it still has red LEDs. But these Easy Load trailers seem and look like cheap crap. But I will tell you one thing for sure. They're all tubing. It's all 3-inch square tubing. It's all bolted together, and it pulls like a dream. This thing is well balanced for the boat. It's just everything it needs to be. Now, talk about the green outside of the boat. Every piece of the interior is green. We got green seats. We got green engine cover. And we've got, you know, the natural old wood rot, but the vinyl is in good enough shape. I can repurpose it onto a new frame if I wanted to. As you probably can't see because it's getting a little dark out, there's a carburetor right there under the dash. Now this did come with a cover. It has a cover underneath here that snaps on all the way around the boat, which is actually pretty cool to have the cover that still fits this boat. So if I want to make another cover, I got a pattern. Now, engine compartment. This is looking a little dicey already, right? Here's the spark arrestor. Normally is accompanied by a carburetor right underneath it, which is normally accommodated by an intake exhaust manifold right here. Well, look what's missing here. It's all missing. So before I put this cover back on, and because there's some humidity under here still, when I picked this up, the boat was wet. I'm not sure how long it had been stored outside, but you know, it's one of those things, somebody, you know, finally the lust and the love was gone and they quit taking care of it. Here's the intake manifold, and the riser behind the intake is down here somewhere. What's this? Hey, there's some big pipe clamps for the hoses, right? And, but it's complete. Everything's here. And if I can make this engine turn over, and if it's got compression, I will make it run. Now, there's a 120 Mercruiser outdrive sitting back here, right? I forget, I'm not sure what gen that is, but it's all complete. Stainless steel lines look relatively new. What do we got under here? We should have, oh, come on. There we go. There it is. Whoops, get this thing video going right here. We got the old trim pump here. Whether it's in good condition or not is to be determined. The wires look like they're all there, and typical of this age of a boat. Just a massive, you know, not neatened up wires back here. This one has, a distributor with the vacuum advance. That's interesting. I haven't run into one of these that have a vacuum advance. Usually they have mechanical advance inside the distributor. So I'm not sure that this is original to the boat, or maybe they did this for some years. You guys can comment down below. By the time this video comes out, I will have some research and I might know the answers myself. Not guaranteed. But the gauges, let's look at the gauge cluster here. The gauge cluster looks to be, you know, they're not all cloudy. Now the switches look rough as a cob, right? But switches are easy. Still has the old Hummingbird fish finder. I don't know what year that joker is. Now the one thing I don't have is keys. I don't have a key for that or the glove box. There might be a stack of $100 bills in that glove box. Let's hope there is. I'm gonna need it. Underneath the dash here, it's hard to see, but it's the gas tank is underneath on the front of the boat. And this one is a nice aluminum tank. So the good chances of that tank being real good and not rusty on the inside is high. I can always swish some stuff around there and flush that out. Look at this horn. Woo! It's got, you know, like something from the royal family crest on there or something. Maybe that's the Four Winns crest. I don't know. But I don't know if it works or not. We'll find out eventually. But it's got the horn. The aluminum railing looks to be in great shape. All this gel coat up here, you know, this is gonna, it's dirty right now. This will power wash and buff out. And this has a nice, it's not white. It just doesn't look like a, ooh, let's see how clean I can get that. There. It's not a white. Boy, that's really slick when I did that. That's smooth. So I think this gel coat is in really good shape. There's no weird cracks or stuff like that. Yeah, the aluminum on here is faded. Let's just say we're gonna stick with that patina because that looks good. Now these foam covers I put on here to protect my boat cover, but I think as well as that looks, this is gonna buff up to a nice gloss just like the banana did. What else we got going on here? That's pretty much the long and the short of it, but as we work on some more of this, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna keep it covered, protected, and when this baby can have my registration with my numbers on here that we stick on here, it's gonna be a good day. Now I haven't stepped inside the boat yet. The floor may be soft. Look at that sunset, guys. Beauty, Clark. You guys have seen the other video on this boat so far. The neutral tongue weight on that trailer is self-evident because just the wind blew in a different direction and tipped her backwards. Now this is a 1977 Starcraft. There again, there may be already videos coming out for this one by the time you see this one. I don't know. Hey, Mr. Kitty Cat, checking for mice? Good cat. We got several yard lions here. There's two more over there. There's a dark face one way over there. They're out here keeping the mice at bay. But yeah, this is a Four Winns made by Safety Mate. Huh, never heard of that. I've heard of the Four Winns before, but I haven't heard of Safety Mate. But all the railing is good. I mean, even this piece is intact. This goes up and down. That's intact. Obviously, I want to switch that out to LED. The only really busted, besides the engine being half tore apart, is this ladder has got some whatever's going on. But the ladder on this, if you check it out, is all a part of the whole thing. So it's not something you just replace on very easy. So I have to figure out what I got to do, because it looks like there's used to be a something here. Maybe, I don't know what, that went on down. Maybe this was just like this. I don't know. That looks like that may have been like that. This almost looks like an afterthought to this. That might just unbolt and that just not be there. And we have our ladder that's always down there near the top level of the water. And when you're on plane, obviously it's not touching anywhere. It's got some blacked out hubcaps with blacked out wheels with bearing buddies. Now those tires They got some checking on them. Those need to be replaced. But I ain't kidding you, pulling this home. Now this one I didn't have to travel very far. This one I actually only had to go about 20 miles from home to get. It was actually in another town over, more or less. So I couldn't resist. I just couldn't. And so I didn't do a recovery like I did with this guy over here. Where am I at? Yep, this one right here. But because it just wouldn't have been that exciting. I went and got it, hooked it up, drove home at whatever speed I wanted, and life was good. So, but that's also the, you know, the difference between a well-balanced boat trailer. This thing's right now, as it sits, has about, I could pick it up, but I'm saying 60 to 70 pounds of tongue weight, which when you drop that on the back of your vehicle, doesn't squat your vehicle much at all, doesn't buck, doesn't fishtail, it just trails like it's supposed to. All right, I'm gonna put a cover back. I'm gonna take and grab the carburetor out of this thing. I'm gonna grab the intake manifold pieces out of this thing. I'm gonna pull the spark plugs out of it, shoot some juice in the holes because it's gonna be covered up, and I want this thing to be, you know, have a snowball's chance of not being stuck when I start messing with it. So we'll be back on this part. It'll be for a few seconds for you. It could be up to 8 weeks for me before I see documentation. So we'll be back when there's documentation in my hands, and it'll probably be indicated by me peeling that off and maybe buffing and putting the new, you know, the new numbers on. All right, stay tuned, folks. All right, I just wanted to have another little quick update here on the green machine. Look at those spark plugs. Can you see that? Look at how, I wire wheeled them off, but look at how that rust on these old AC Delco's R43Ts. I broke one of them. That's okay. But yeah, these have been in there for a while. Good news though, first time I stepped in the back of the boat. So what I've done to this point, there again, I haven't put any money in it. Not putting any money in it till I get papers in my hand. But I just wanted to kind of assess the engine condition because that's one of the components I would keep if the rest was junk. Put my bore scope down in there, and by golly, the cylinders and the piston tops look pretty good. Other than you could tell there's, I don't know, a little bit of white stuff on top of the pistons, but it looked pretty good. The cylinder walls weren't rusty. If they were just so slight. Just from sitting, you know, so any engine that sits for a period of time might have that. I can't get to the flywheel very good or the front pulley very good on the boats. I wish they had a way that you could actually crank them over, but typically what I've had to do in the past is jack up the bottom, you know, support the bottom oil pan a little bit, pull the engine mount off, and then I can just play around all I want. But cylinder walls look good, so I put a bunch of PB Blaster down each cylinder hole, and then I took my Marvel Mystery Oil and I just glug, 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 glug down to each cylinder, each cylinder. Spaghetti's starting to repeat on me that I had for supper. But the other good news is what was it? Oh, I pulled the dipstick full of clean oil. No water in there, no signs of it water. There's no milkshake going on in there. So there again, the intake manifold was taken off, and the guy did tell me this, that it was leaking. Water was pouring out the side of the intake manifold. I'm like, well, if it wasn't winterized properly, you know, you got to drain that intake manifold to get the water out of it. Otherwise, they'll crack along a specific spot. Now, I haven't looked at this one yet. I'm going to drag it out of the boat here in a minute. We'll look at that here in just a minute. But anyway, a lot of stuff down the cylinders. We'll let that soak. I'm going to take the engine cover out and the back seats out because they're just holding a lot of moisture I don't want in there. And if I take them out and set them underneath my lean-to and let them dry out there for a while, they'll dry out better there than obviously in the boat under a cover. Actually, when I get a day or two of just, I know it's gonna be just pure sunshine and breezy, that we're gonna, you know, take that cover off and let this thing continue to air out. Other good news, in other news, this is no joke. Now, because, I need this to go back to bright. There we go, so I can see what's going on here. So another good news is I got up there and walked around on that floor. Now this is a 1977 boat, and that floor is solid. Not a single, I weigh 275. I'm walking around on there, and I put some poundages per square inches on my feet. And there was not a single bounce, crack, soft spot, nothing. It was solid. So that's very promising, because I was worried about if there's going to be a soft floor. Not so great, but there's not a soft floor in it. That's a big plus, so I'm excited about that. The transom, inside and out, feel and look, when you pound on them, are solid. Don't seem to be a lot of moisture in there. Now, one thing that this boat did come with was one of those covers that snap on. It still has the cover. One of the pictures when the guy had the boat pictured for sale was with this cover snapped in place. What does that tell you? That tells you that cover spent a lot of time on that boat, because otherwise things would be so rotten by now, right? So I think we got a diamond in the rough here. But until I get paperwork in my hands, I don't know how much of a rough I've got. So I'm gonna go stick these old rusty, crusty wire-wheeled spark plugs back in, and they're just gonna be a placeholder. I'm not gonna stick new ones in there for the next, just to sit there for the next month or so. Put these back in, let this thing just soak in all the goodness I put down the cylinder walls, and then we'll be back at it. I'm gonna get that intake manifold and that carburetor in here, and we'll take a quick look at that. And that way I'll just sit that on the shelf and wait. All right, be right back. All right, my heater fan's running, but just what I suspected. I brought this in here, and as you can see, there's a crack all the way down through here. Now, my Starcraft, when I bought it, my 76 had a crack in here, and I wire wheeled that out real good, and I packed it full of JB Weld, and I ain't kidding you, the JB Weld's holding tight for 5 years. This one, I'm gonna attempt to do something a little different. Problem is, this drain plug out, and you need fold, and you prevent that from happening. The cool part is, I looked right behind this area on the block, and the block looks in good shape. What you'll have happen sometimes, if it gets water, don't get winterized properly, the block will also crack behind here, and it can crack inwards or outwards. So we'll see how that goes when we get to that part of it a little while down the road. All right, we find ourselves back out here at the back of the Four Winns boat. We're getting ready to move the outdrive. Right now, what I'm doing is shifting the shifter into forward gear. I want to make sure this thing's in forward gear so it lines things up so this outdrive will come off easy. I'm double checking now to see why isn't it in forward gear. So I check it again up front, come back here. It's still, you can hear something starting to click, click, click. So the cables are just way out of adjustment. So people have really messed around with this thing quite a bit. So I got underneath there, got my light out, and was just making sure that gear was pointing, or the shifter was pointing straight front to back and not off at an angle. Because if you try to pull it off at an angle, you'll end up bending or breaking or destroying something you don't want to. And here I am battling it's attempting to rain on me while I'm trying to get this done. I want to get this project moving. And once I discover that, yes, it is in forward gear, we can proceed. I've got my 5/8 socket that I wish I'd have brought my 9/16 one out. Normally I like to pull the cylinder shafts loose from the stern drive first, but in this case I'm just going ahead and pulling off all 6 of these 5/8 nuts, stainless nuts and washers off of here. And I keep looking in my socket because I think it's stuck in there when it actually already fell in my hand. I'm trying to hold all these nuts and washers at once. So once I get that taken care of, I've got my 9/16 socket. We back these all the way off on both sides. And then what I'll do is I'll back the, pulling off the hardware, obviously. But then we'll pull the nuts off on the front, not all the way off. I'm backing them off just to allow the cylinders to, give them a little bit of play. So they'll let the front end closest to me spring apart and free the stern drive from the cylinders. And I'm using my wooden handled hammer here. And I'm knocking it back and forth, and there's pieces flying, and I'll have to go and try to find all the rubber pieces and the washers and the things that I, knocked loose and didn't have. But make sure you round up all your hardware when you're done. This one fought me a little bit, obviously, but I always win the battles, and eventually I win the war. See that rubber bushing just went flying, and and then the shaft shot out the other side. It's like, holy crap, parts are flying everywhere. But we gathered it all up because all this is going to be reused. It's all in great shape. The cylinders are in great shape. It has stainless steel lines already. I do want to replace the trim pump on it because that's what's usually the culprit for when things aren't
staying in position where they need to be. So once you've got that, all those things loose, you can actually bounce the outdrive up and down a little bit like I'm doing there, and you can get this to break loose and slide right out. Some of them might be tight. If you got corrosion around those bolts, you will struggle with that. Now I'm noticing how much rust is on this CV joint here. And I also realized the rubber gasket that was there was actually cut, which could easily let water up in there. I'm going to double check that gimbal boot though to make sure there's no cuts in the gimbal boot. Those things can be kind of a pain to change, and some of the old rubber is better than some of the new rubber nowadays. So we're going to get this into the shop, and we'll start working on taking the rest of the way apart. And I'm going to split the halves, and we're going to see what kind of condition that water pump is in. Chances are it's pretty rough. So first things first is we take our 8mm Allen wrench here, making sure it fits in there. I use my little cheater pipe on here to get this thing broke loose. As I'll discover throughout the rest of this disassembly, that piece wasn't crazy tight, but the rest of it, somebody tightened the living snot out of everything. It was actually pretty frustrating. So we're going to get this piece removed so we can access the socket head cap screw that's underneath here, which I discovered is a socket head cap screw. Typically, it's a stud sticking through there with a nut on it, but it's all the ones I've messed with. This is the first one I've stumbled onto that actually had a I don't know if the stud came out, somebody lost it, replaced it with this stainless socket head. At least they did stainless, which was good. So I'm going underneath there looking there, got my socket in my hand going, what's going on here? Why isn't that fitting? I'm kind of confused. I would look confused, look at my face going, why isn't this fitting? Then I discovered it's also an 8mm socket head cap screw. I shouldn't say 8mm. It takes an 8mm wrench, hex wrench, to get that out. So I get underneath there, and then I had to pry that loose. That thing was, or pop it loose with my cheater pipe. It was stupid tight. I don't know how they didn't strip it out, because you're just tightening some of this stuff down. It's just into aluminum. It's not into steel. So once I got that backed out, we'll move forward to the next thing. And I think I'm going to show you here the fact that it was a socket head cap screw. Nope. Maybe I did. It's skipping ahead on me a little bit here. But now I've got I think it's a 3/4 inch socket here. And here again, this one here, I'm trying to break it loose. And then it's like, well, get the cheater pipe out. Here we go again. But yeah, that was just snug. I mean, normally I tighten everything with just a 3/8 ratchet. I don't use cheater pipes to tighten it, but I have a feeling whoever had this apart, just tightened the living snot out of things, and it was ridiculous. Going now underneath, I think these are two 9/16 sockets it requires here. These are a little bit tight, but they weren't crazy tight. At least they broke loose. There's one on each side there. As you can see, I'm getting the first one out. The other one's right next to it. We'll take those two out, and then we'll move on to the other last two bolts before we pull this assembly apart. It has two 9/16 nuts. They're 9/16 branch, I should say, to back these off. These will back all the way off. Almost. You got to lift it up just a little bit to get the nut the rest of the way off. But you got one on each side. Get that loose and those out of the way, and then you should be ready to lift this upper part of the gearbox off. We'll set that aside for now, and then we'll move on to taking this water pump apart and seeing what's going on inside there, because it looks like it got a little hot.
All right, let's go ahead and pull the impeller off of here. See what kind of water pump design we got. I'll tell you what, guys, if you haven't bought any of these magnetic trays, even for stainless bolts, and you got a steel bench, it keeps it all together. Three 7/16 socketed devices here, and 1/2 inch socket for this front one. For whatever reason, they designed it that way. Let's see if this is gonna We'll give it a little light tap here. Nope. Let's give it a little screwdriver action here, not much. This is plastic, I believe, on this one. Typically it has like a stainless liner in it that takes all the wear and the tear. See if it helps getting this rubber piece off. It looks pretty weather checked. Yeah, it's cracking all over. This will be replaced in a new water pump kit anyway. Oh, we got the air O-ring. Get the old pick here. Come on, baby. Not sure why this one's so stuck. There we go, we're getting it. Just patience and easing it off. Little washers. Well, this thing's gotten hot. You can see this is all bubbled out through here. That's kind of unusual. Oh, wow. This has got one that's turned the wrong way. This rotates this direction. What the heck? That shaft rotates like this. These are all the wrong direction. Is that what I'm seeing? Yeah, this shaft rotates this direction. That means all the impellers should be curled this direction. And they're all curled the wrong way. Somebody put this together wrong. And look how hot that got. That started melting. I think that might have been, maybe the exhaust got down through here and got things a little crispy. Maybe that's why this copper tube is stuck. It's maybe melted in there. Oh. Yeah, that was tight. But yeah, this is, somebody put this together all wrong. This way. Somebody just crunched it in there, because normally when you put this together, you're supposed to have the drive key in there with that on it, and you can rotate the shaft and run this down, you know, in a clockwise direction, and everything works. So glad we got this apart, because that never would have lasted very long at all. Will it even come out? Oh yeah, it's out. There we go. Now these did come with a variety of different types of impellers. Some are thinner, some are thick like this. This one's definitely, look at that. That was even, that was bent this way here on this end and that way on the other direction. This was a hot mess. Whoever done this a long time ago did it wrong. And this thing, it might have pumped some water, but I have no idea how much water. All right, that's why you get another boat and it's never been done, or somebody tells you it's been done, or anything in between. You might want to just take a look for yourself. Don't assume somebody else did it right. Here's all the plates and the gaskets, and oh, Duh, it won't come off with the key in there. There we go. Now this has a seal around it, and I was kind of concerned, as hot as this stuff got, if anything happened with this gearbox down in here, but it looks like it's okay. Okay, I did some careful vacuuming and cleaning down in here because there's a lot of crud. And I'm just making sure this thing feels like it shifts pretty good. Smooth. I'm not sure why this washer had such a big, this had a big dent in it. And I don't think that's supposed to be there like that. But now, since I removed the seal and everything, and I did my best to try not to let any debris get in there, but I am going to go ahead and take the drain plug out of the bottom, and I'm just going to flush this thing with some brake cleaner and then let it dry out, and then I'll add some oil. That's just going to make me feel a whole lot better before I put it all back together. Now what I like about the brake cleaner is it will flush, with this power, it'll flush a lot of stuff through. And it will evaporate. Then I'll know all these surfaces are clean. I can already hear it. You can hear it running a lot drier in there. Yep, that's pretty clean now. Then we'll let that evaporate dry. And then what I'll do is I'll fill it full of, I'll pump some gear oil through it, and that'll re-lubricate it so things aren't starting off dry, obviously. But yeah, I feel a lot better about that. Now I've blown air up through the drain hole quite a bit while rotating this. to make sure it was flushed out dry. But then I didn't want it to sit completely dry for too long, because just humidity in the air can cause, you know, flash rust on the bearings, and we didn't want that. So what I did is I took some gear oil, sprayed it, you know, covered the whole top of this bearing, started spinning it, let it work through, and then I pumped it in through the bottom like you're supposed to do. And now you can hear this thing, you know, she's smooth as butter and quiet, which is what it was before, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't get any extra debris in there. I wanted to flush it out, but I have a lot of confidence in that setup right there, because we got, I mean, that thing is nice and quiet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put some paper towels around the top of this until my new parts come in, because I want to replace everything, including, you know, this seal plate, this plastic here that has a seal here and an O-ring out here that seals off this gearbox. I don't want to take any chances. This thing was liquid tight, watertight before. I want to keep it that way. And just seeing the heat that this piece here was subjected to, I just don't trust anything plastic down in there that was subjected to that much heat. So we're going to get some all new pieces for this guy, and this gearbox will be good to go. It's going to make me a little something here just to keep that stuff, keep any of the rest of the shop debris from getting in here until I get my parts. All right, folks, I know that was a long way to get here. Appreciate your patience in watching the video. If you've gotten this far into it, it's very much appreciated. I got you a quick update on the registration information on the 77.4 WINNS. I actually have the paperwork. The gentleman that I bought it from, I reached back out to him and I said, hey, by any chance, could I meet you in your county and go to your administrative building and have you transfer that registration into your name from the person you bought it from? And I said, I will pay the bill to do it, because it's going to be a lot easier to do that than it is to send all the stuff into the DNR and wait weeks and weeks and weeks when I really want to get going on this boat. And he says, absolutely. So he was very helpful, very kind, and met me down there. We went and got the registration changed over to my name, or his name, and then he signed it over to me. I took it to my county, got it registered in my name. Now the boat and trailer is all officially mine, and easy enough to do work on. Mercury, how you doing, buddy? You been down there sniffing by the pond? You find anything fun? Huh? You find anything fun? Oh, good boy. All right, that's Mercury. Anyway, so we ended up getting the paperwork all taken care of. So now we can get back to work on this. You saw me already working on the outdrive, right? Well, that's because that part's a useful part no matter whether it's on this boat or not. And so we really wasn't taking any risk, and I really didn't put any money in it. I just took it apart. And obviously, as you saw, we discovered some issues that needed to be addressed anyway. That would have been a foolish thing to do if I'd have just got this engine running, changed the gear oil, and took it out in the water. There's issues there that would have arisen and caused me some problems. So now we can get back out here. We can finish cleaning up on this boat, tripping over an anchor. An anchor, that's unusual. Okay, but you know, there again, I squirted this engine down with a lot of stuff on the inside, and as you can see right here, this is the area that would normally have a crack if the block was going to crack from freezing, and it did not, which is awesome. So we're going to get that, we're going to get this spinning over before we know it. That'll be in the next video. I definitely appreciate you guys watching and following along. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up if you haven't done that. Share, comment, you know, just say, hey Mike, how's it going? Or hey Mike, appreciate what you do, or you know, that's a cool boat, or whatever. Just leave a comment. It actually helps the YouTube algorithms, which helps promote the channel. Oh, and finally, the descriptions down below. If you see any links to Amazon or any other links to other websites, the Amazon link will take you to Amazon, obviously, for that product, but you can also shop for everything else you want. And that actually gives me a little bit of I think it's 3% commission for anything I drive to Amazon for sales. I get a 3% commission for driving you guys to the website and buying some stuff. That's one of the best ways you can help out the channel as well, financially, because all this stuff costs money. Everything I'm doing is not cheap. The other thing we'll be doing is I'll be working with SCI Marine some more on this boat to see what they got a catalog this freaking thick, guys. Don't be afraid to check them out. They've got water pumps, they've got gearboxes, they've got all kinds of stuff for inboard and outboard motors alike. So check that stuff out. I'm gonna be working with them to see what they can hook me up with for this one. See what kind of water pump they can hook me up with, and maybe another trim pump and some hoses and stuff, whatever I need to get this going. Gaskets here and there. So look over their website, look through there, you know, don't be afraid to call them. If you've got a question because you're not familiar with looking up your own parts, call them. They got a number, a real person will answer the phone, and they'll I'll say, hey, I've got a 1977, I'm looking for this, this, and this, and they'll like, oh, okay, cool. They might even take some information down and get back to you via email, text, phone, however they want to get back to you. However, what's the best way to communicate with you? Check them out. So I know I pumped them up quite a bit. They've helped me out on the channel. They've given me a banner to hang in my shop, so the shop looks cool with a banner in it. And but they've treated me right, and all their products have been working very well. This is not a sponsored video, but I feel obligated to brag on them a little bit because they've been treating me pretty well, and their stuff is good. And you know me, I don't endorse anything that I don't believe in. So this is Michael saying, if it ain't broke, fix it till it is. We'll see you on the next video. You guys be good to one another and treat each other like you want to be treated. This is Michael, and I'm out.